Hi, I'm Scott Helton from CafeNamaste.com. I'm really excited to be here today with one of my heroes and new friend, Regina Meredith, primary host for the Gaiam TV network. Now, if you don't know who Regina is yet, I can't think of, in fact, there's very few people that have their finger on the pulse of what's really happening and interesting out there. You know, things that we should really be paying attention to. She's interviewed and explored some of the brightest minds in all kinds of topics like things like the latest health news, hidden history, economics, politics, secrets and hidden agendas, even like really interesting esoteric phenomena. This gives her, I think, a unique vantage point to integrate all of this information into a really interesting and important overarching perspective. So I thought it would be very valuable to create a platform for her to be able to share some of her unique insights that she doesn't get time for on her own shows. Also, if you have a great question for Regina, I'll give you an email address at the end of the show so that you can send in your question and hopefully have it answered by Regina in a future episode. Hi, Regina. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Scott?
I'm great.
It's good chatting with you. I'm so happy to be doing this. You've nudged me out of my little hole where I tend to just kind of do my homework and my interviews and hide the rest of the time. So this is new for me, actually, doing a video blog like this. So this is good. Thank you for nudging me.
Oh, I'm excited about it. And you travel so much. Are you actually home today?
I'm actually home, so you have to forgive if the dogs start barking. There's a lot going on out here. People are doing yard work in neighboring houses and all that, and I don't want to stuff them away somewhere. They missed their mom, so they have me today.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they
I'm from
do.
Boulder, and I'm here in Sedona in my home. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, you travel to Boulder quite frequently. That's where you tape the shows, right?
all the time.
Yeah.
I'm plains a lot. Hmm.
So, Regina, for those that are new to your work, you've been a news journalist and TV host for years, even on some of the major networks. I was hoping you could give us, take a moment just to give us a brief background on how you became a host for Gaiam TV.
Well, I think that doing what I'm doing now is my dharma. I know it's my dharma. So I started early in life, just in my very early 20s. I did it on a dare. Initially, literally, I went for a job in television on a dare because someone had said they didn't think I had the courage to do it. And this is in a time when there were not, and this was for sports. There were not a lot of women.
Right.
In fact, there were almost no women. There were only a couple doing sports at that time. So I went for the job, got the job, and then have been in it my entire life since. Literally, I thought it was a dare. Of course, it was not a dare. And everything I have done up until this point, news anchor, I did sports, as I said initially, started in that, and then started doing my own programming quite a long time, a couple of decades ago. Went to PBS, was hosting shows there, went into a little more esoteric material as the years went on, and started new shows on network affiliates. I was always looking to start new concepts that hadn't been done before. That's my thing. And so 10 years ago, my husband Scott Meredith and I started Conscious Media Network basically as a backlash to PBS. I had been with PBS, and it was a really good experience. I was with them for years producing documentaries, and I had a vegetarian cooking show that aired nationally here and then also in Australia and Canada at the time. And it was good. It was fun. I did 6 seasons, and then I thought, okay, the vegetarian thing it's nice. It's enjoyable, but I have been studying esoteric material my entire adult life. So it was time to get on the road with that, and I almost got it going with PBS, but they were under a lot of pressure from the government to have funding pulled.
Right.
So as a result of that, they pulled the documentary I was going to do, and I said, that's it. I have to go online now. We have to get off the airwaves in order to make this happen. So we started Conscious Media Network, which was purchased by Gaiam. So I've been doing what I'm doing now in this format for 10 years, and I'm getting ready to also branch out from there.
It's such a broad history in all kinds of different topics, but
In media, I write, I produce, I'm a script writer, I've written books, and all of it. It's kind of, if it's media, I've probably done it.
wow. Well, you've met and interviewed some of the brightest minds in the world of truth seekers. I'm sure you have many favorites, but who stands out among those? Who, for example, were you most excited to meet?
Yeah, I've thought about that so many times, and I could give you some things off the top of my head, but I don't think it would be accurate. I remember being very excited to meet with Rupert Sheldrake, and partially because kept having these near misses with Rupert. And one of them was very dramatic at a conference in Santa Fe. I happened to be there, and I just arranged the interview that was going to happen as soon as he was done with this particular lecture he was doing. And we were taking a little break. He was going to wrap it up. And as we went on the break, someone stabbed Rupert. A young man who was mentally ill rushed the stage. And thank God Rupert is tall and has long legs and was on the riser. The kid couldn't get up to the riser. And he stabbed him. Wow. And in Rupert's inimitable style, I happened to, I mean, of course, we were all horrified. I had just walked out the door when I heard everyone behind me gasp and went back in. And they wheeled him away. And I went around the back door where the ambulances were. They were taking him out on a gurney. They stabbed him in the thigh. And Rupert said, "Well, Regina, I think we're going to have to delay our interview."
This might be a slight delay.
So Rupert. And so I had to keep waiting and waiting for that interview. And of course, he has such a brilliant mind that so many of the other people in the field of quantum physics and, you know, the whole nature of the field and creating reality draw from, that was a really big one. So I finally met him at his home in England a couple of years ago, and with his wife and kids, and it was beautiful. We had a wonderful interview together. So I think just the mere fact that I admired him so much and I had to wait so long made that one extra special. And Barbara Hanclau, we have 4 fabulous interviews up on Gaiam right now. I adore her. She's become a sister. There are so many. I mean, I've done 10 years of them. I've done 600 or 700 wonderful people with interviews with wonderful people. So it's really hard to choose favorites. It just depends on the subject and the day, and I tend to live in the moment.
One of my favorites that comes to mind was Patrick Flanagan. And
Patrick, yes.
I'd heard about him from years from David Wolf, would just kind of throw it out there. Yeah, I got this from Patrick Flanagan or whatnot. I learned this from Patrick Flanagan, but I didn't really know who he was until you had him on your show. And so he's become a favorite of mine.
Yes, many people draw inspiration from him, and I know Patrick quite well. I met him initially about 15 years ago, and I've done a few things in terms of interviews with him, and actually know him. And I can say that the person that you see on camera, that person that seems to be able to take information in 360 degrees and synthesize it on genius levels, is driven by one of the purest hearts. He's just one of the sweetest beings I know, in addition to that. And yes, I highly encourage anyone who hasn't seen the interviews with Patrick Flanagan. It's rare. You don't see interviews with Patrick very often at all. He does that. So yes, I agree. That's another great one. Absolutely.
Now, is there anybody that you would really like to interview that you haven't yet?
You know, most of the people that were on my wish list 10 years ago and even a year ago, I seem to be able to get to most of them. I'm interested in interviewing, and this is kind of an esoteric thing, Paul Stamets, about the world of fungi, because I had a really interesting personal vision recently when I dotted a little Palo Santo on my forehead and had this amazing vision about the world of fungi that started speaking to me. And so I really want to go there and see if we can get Paul on the show and talk about how the world of fungi are essentially modulating a lot of the kind of disturbances in our soil, the bacteriological and virology that we're being presented with right now. What I was shown, and he also, I believe he says this in his work as well, is that it's going to begin modulating radiation and a lot of things for us. And so the intelligence of that kingdom and its interface with the Devic realms, all of that. I really want to go deeper into that subject about how that world of intelligence is in alignment with us and partnering with us to help us through our own healing process of our earth and our bodies and so forth. So that's one. And I know this will sound kooky to a lot of people that follow conspiracy theory, but I've always wanted to interview Prince Charles. And the reason is Prince Charles is, I think, a total renegade. I have found out, in fact, Rupert told me that I should interview Prince Charles. They know each other quite well. Huh. And I got very close one day, and actually his Prince Charles, co-author of his book Harmony, which I'm sure no one here has heard about,
No, I haven't.
agreed to an interview in London. And I thought, I really want to wait until I can interview Prince Charles on this. But he is, as much as David Icke, who is a brother and a dear friend of mine, despises the royal family, or at least is warning us about larger agendas regarding the royal family. I do believe Prince Charles is actually cut out of a different cloth and has been trying to speak out for decades. High levels of consciousness. I won't get into what I've heard about him in terms of his spiritual development, but very high level being. And he wrote this book Harmony that I read, and I thought, bingo, everything I thought about him is true. So I talked to some friends in England who are of a high level of awareness, and they'd never heard of the book. And that's because he's as banned from any kind of expression in England as he is here as well. They will not let him, they won't give him any media regarding his work. And so I would just love to sit with him and see what his energy's like. If I could do it. I know you have to get on the books years in advance, but we'll see.
That would be fascinating. And all of that you just said was totally new to me. I mean, I've heard all kinds of theories that he's part of the cabal, the Illuminati or whatnot, but yeah, I had no idea that he was, friends with Rupert Sheldrake and into all this stuff.
His exploration into worlds of consciousness is really astounding. He's brilliant.
Huh.
And he and Rupert are both shunned in
Right.
England. They're shunned for the same reasons. They don't want those kooky ideas out there, and that's no surprise they're looking at passing him right over to William. So that should tell you something. There's
exactly. Yeah.
to that story. And I started becoming intrigued with him about 30 years ago when I was a kid, and I started hearing all about his astrology that he was doing and his organic gardening and all the money he was putting into reviving farms. And I thought, you go, guy. So I know it's not a popular thing to say, but I'd love to interview Prince Charles.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a fantastic interview. Do your guests ever surprise you with something that really contradicts your own knowledge or perspective? And then how would you handle that?
I wouldn't say they surprise me. I know in advance oftentimes because I do the research that we don't agree on everything. We don't have to, though. My feeling when I choose my interviews, I'm not necessarily choosing them for me. I'm choosing them for an audience that I think may benefit from some or all of what they have to say. So I don't have to agree with what they have to say particularly. I have had so much exposure to so many different points of views and philosophies that I have my own overriding philosophies, but that I try not to let that seep too much into the interviews because it's not about me. It's about the person that I'm interviewing and the work that they're doing. So yes, sometimes they'll say something that doesn't jive, and I'll call them on it a bit. I'll say, well, that's kind of interesting. I always thought it was kind of the other way. And we'll have a little debate there, a friendly little debate. And I enjoyed that. We don't have to agree. And there's almost nothing that's shocking anymore.
I'm sure you've seen it and heard it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is because often in your interviews, I'm always wondering, I wonder what Regina's perspective is on that particular topic. So I'm glad we're getting the chance to do this. Can you give us a little teaser of some of the upcoming interviews that we've got coming up to expect from you?
Yes, it seems that things kind of go in groupings. Subjects go in groupings, where at one moment it's all about consciousness and creation, and in the field. Like Rupert Sheldrake's work, I'll have a bunch of physicists show up all of a sudden in my field. And right now, I have a lot of very interesting women showing up in my field, lots. I just completed a couple recently with Barbara Hanclough that were wonderful on some of her new work, but she's just representative of the kind of energy that's coming in. And I'm beginning to understand, I do understand why now. We are at that Grand Cross is right about to hit us. I've heard both April 20th and April 21st. I have been interviewing astrologers since, 2014, 2010, on the arrival of this Grand Cross. And it's arriving, it's on top of us. And so what it's doing is it's forcing us into the next level of our development as a species. And that's where the feminine starts rising, cannot be ignored anymore. And so at the moment I am researching and reading a book called Unearthing Venus by Kate Montana. And wow, what a read. That's what I'll be doing this weekend, is finishing that book up to get ready for my interview with her next week. But I don't know if you've heard of her, but it's phenomenal. Her writing is phenomenal. It's just a really good read. But at the same time, it's talking about the processes that women have gone through to get to this point in time for the arrival of the need for us to step forward. And one of the things she wrote about in the book by someone else I loved interviewing and I just adore is John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, Hoodwinked, and so forth. He relayed to her, she became involved in his group, and at the very beginning of her book, she talks about the shaman that was so important in John Perkins' life and his own personal transformation. And the shaman said to him, "We men will hunt until there are no more animals. We'll fish until there are no more fish. We'll cut down trees until there are no more trees. That is our nature. But it is the women who tell us when to stop." And he said, "Why aren't your women telling you when to stop?" And that really fashioned his life. It knocked Kate Montana, on her knees to hear that. It was just, whoa, why aren't we telling them to stop? So it's not an us against them. It's not a man-woman. It's the female dynamic in the way of thinking, the way of integrating knowledge, information, protectionism of family, environment, and so forth, versus the male, which is to go out and create that, change, that part of us that can very pointedly create change. And now it's time for the two to become wedded. And so this subject's coming up a lot. I'm surrounded by these amazing women. And so I'm going to be interviewing two of them, including another woman, an East Indian woman who was born in South Carolina and has the most interesting story. Simran Singh. I'll also be.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Yeah. And I just met her last week, and then as soon as we're done talking, I'm off to a conference. In fact, with Barbara Marciniak, and I'll kind of dial into what the Pleiadians have to say about all this as well.
Oh, fascinating! I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, that's good. That'll be good. I have to talk her into it. She likes doing interviews with me, but she's very shy. You notice you can't find any interviews with her. I did one, but I'm going to try to talk her into another one for the. Right now, today, I'm just listening to the channelings in her presentation, and then I'm going to try to twist her arm into coming on to Gaiam with me again.
Oh, I hope she does it. I'm looking forward to that. And so how do you find out about all this? It sounds like you read quite a bit, but what are some of the sites and sources that you stay up to date and get your information and inspiration from?
Oh God, everything.
You've been in it so long. It's like, wow.
So long. There is no one place. I don't even have a half a dozen places. It's a whisper from someone that says, "Hey, I just read this great book," to a great site, to someone sending me their work, to my stumbling across things. It's all of the above. And I tend to, with rare exception, there are times when Jay, my producer at Gaiam, will say, "I really want you to interview this guy," or whatever. And we usually agree on things, and I'll say fine. But normally I go very intuitively. If I feel there's something a valuable nugget, again, I don't have to agree with everything, but if there's a nugget in there I think has some really larger truth to it, then I'll just follow the threads. There we go.
And that's why I think your show is so valuable, because it's you are on the cutting edge and just tapped into the intuitive nudge, based on all the knowledge that you've gained in history that you've done with your shows. So, of all the topics that you cover, I mean, what do you think are the most important topics facing us right now?
Oh, it depends on whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. I think the understanding that has now come about, that I think most people, certainly anyone watching this, finally is embracing, is that we're an eternal soul. We're the co-creator. We are the creator of our reality. We're the creator of our bodies. To understand the degree to which our soul has the most incredible power if we allow it to speak to us, work through us, and guide us. That's really, that to me is the most important topic. We can go into smart meters, which I'm actively involved in here in Sedona. We're going to try to kick out some of the city council members and get new ones in so they really listen to us. I mean, that activism part is wonderful for whoever chooses to take that on. But for each one of us, the one true thing that matters more than anything is to understand our soul is trying to whisper to us. It's trying to give us some clear direction about where we're supposed to be, what we're to be doing, to enjoy life, to breathe, to go out into nature, to love our animals and each other and be compassionate. And I don't think anything's more important than developing the art of listening to our own soul force. You know, right down and understanding that even for our unborn children, to understand that soul is right there programming the DNA of that little body in development for its purpose, to have whatever traits it needs to live out that dharma in that lifetime, to learn the lessons, to have the experience. That's, to me, trumps everything else.
I totally agree. And I asked you a question like right after we met, and your answer was really helpful to me. In that the more I've been into this, I recognize all these things that we need to pay attention to and take, active measures to, try to change them. But at the same time, as we give our attention to those things, we're in a sense maybe feeding that type of energy. So you had a great way of talking about how we can stay with that higher perspective of the grand picture of what's going on, that it's all a big play that's happening to create us, to wake us up to who we really are and tap us into who we really are. And so not to take it so seriously, but also recognize that, we can bring our awareness and attention to those things to create change without the emotional, the dualism, creating more dualism, and try to integrate that into wholeness. And so I really liked your answer to that. But if you could speak to that for just a moment on how we can take in these things, but not go into fear and fear response and all that.
Right. Well, I think number one, if we recognize that as souls first, and then walking around, enter stage left, and mom and dad enter stage left, stage right. Here we are. We come in on cue. Everybody plays their part. It's just a play. It's just another iteration of how the soul chooses to express itself. We all chose to come into an incredibly dynamic time. And we're here at a time when the truth is trying to be literally bubble out from the cracks. And so it's up to us to turn over the stones and try to discover the truth for ourselves, whatever the truth is that we need to come to grips with in this lifetime. And this is not an accident that we chose to be born when we have to deal with large conspiracies, with chemtrails, with all these things that are impacting our health, with radio frequencies, HARP, all of it, all that kind of stuff in the world of conspiracy theory, which these aren't conspiracies, these are realities. We chose to be born into this time where we're going to experience all of it, including these massive radiation leaks and exposures. So you have to say, why did I choose that? No one's forced to incarnate. Why did I choose to incarnate now? What do I need to learn from it? What can I do? Is there something that's even greater going on? Because there may be something that we're not even aware of yet, that we're just beginning to understand, such as maybe there are going to be future challenges on Earth that will require us to adapt to higher levels of radiation. Maybe we need to adapt to higher levels of frequencies, or RF frequencies. And there are people who can and do adapt well, and there are new little children being born that already have the ability to adapt to these things. So our species is in a big squeeze for its next kind of evolutionary shift upward, which requires huge adaptation. We're also looking at the notion of being in a planet that is literally moving, at least subdimensionally, into a new dimensional field. And we're all moving together, and we'll see a lot of people that are challenged by that on a frequency level are dying young. They're dying unexpectedly. They're just saying, hey, don't want the squeeze right now. I'll take a break for a bit and contend with it. We'll see where it goes and contend with it then. And that's fine. That's a soul's choice to do that too. But if we're going to stay here, I think we need to be honest about what's going on, not freak out about it, and say, hey, how come I chose to be part of this? What can I learn? What can I do for myself? What can I do for others in this whole thing? And so there are a lot of opportunities for advancement and growth. Nothing like a little pressure to get, the most profound growth out of us and everything, all systems.
That's right. Yeah, it seems like the periods of greatest change have always happened when, things really come to a head like that, like
Absolutely.
it's happening now. So I have a optimistic view of what's occurring as well. So, and I'm glad that you're.
I like that about you, Scott. I have a really strong resonance with you. I think we have a lot of the same feelings about life in terms of the fact that we're here for purpose. It's all good, even if it doesn't look good.
Right.
We just have to do our part, and if it means to stop something that's not working for us and for the planet, well, we'll stop it. We have that power.
That's right. Infinite beings.
Infinite beings.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share about what's happening in your world outside of Gaiam TV right now?
Oh, honestly, I have to say, my life has been almost completely about Gaiam TV for the last 2 years. I don't really have a whole lot of a life right now outside of it, other than being able to spend some time with my family in California and spend time with my dogs. I have a really nice circle of friends here in Sedona. So friendships to me, friendships and family are the main thing. But no, I mean, in the morning I take little Ernest, my little terrier I showed you before we started here. He and I go up
He's
Cathedral
so
Rock. Yeah, he's so cute. We go up Cathedral Rock in the morning and do some hikes up there. I join with various groups and have, Sedona dinner parties, which are great. Which, to talk about Pleiadians is part of breakfast conversation. You can, that's normal here.
It's normal.
And I love it. And it's done on a really fun, intelligent level. So I'd say that my heart connections with people are, number one, I work a lot because when I'm not on camera, I'm usually researching. And now I want to kind of push it a little further and go back into more documentary style work with my programming, which I think Gaiam is getting ready to start looking at. So that's very exciting for me.
Cool.
But, I'm on my path. This is my dharma. I've got the best job in the world. I mean, what else is there to do with time? Take care of the body, mind, and soul. So that is my life, and I'm going to sneak away for a little tiny vacation here before long. Just a little one, 6 days.
6 days. Oh, that'll be good. And you said you're off to a conference right after this show. And
right.
What was the conference?
It's I've forgotten the name of the conference, but it's dedicated to Barbara Marciniak. Chet Snow, a wonderful guy. He lives here in Sedona and puts on conferences, and I've interviewed him before as well. He has a weekend conference going right now with Barbara, so I've missed the morning part of the first day, but I'm going to try to pick up this afternoon, see what the Pleiadians are about, say hi to Barbara, twist her arm, and then I've got to get back onto Kate Montana's book for the rest of the weekend before I take off for LA for a meeting for another project I'm doing with Gaiam. So it's pretty fast-paced.
Busy, but fascinating and interesting, I'm sure.
What else would I do? What's more interesting than what I do for a living? Really?
That's exactly true. You've got a great life.
I have a great life. I love every minute of it. Well, not every minute. There are days, but I love my life. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Regina. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. So, and thanks again for nudging me out, and I look forward to our next chat.
I as well. I'm sure our audience looks forward to it as well. And again, if you've got any questions that you would like to ask Regina, the email address is Regina, so it's Regina at Cafe Namaste, CAFENAMASTE.com. And you can send in your question, and hopefully Regina will answer it on an upcoming show. And if you haven't caught her shows yet, her shows are on Gaiam TV. The names are Open Minds and Healing Matrix. You should check them out. I'm sure you'll find them as fascinating as I do. Until next time, thanks for watching.